Hi guys, it's Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner, and today is going to be all about glimmer and glimmer sentiments. Glimmer sentiments are some of the one of the funnest ways just to add a little bit of shine to your card, regardless of what your card already looks like. This is going to be fabulous. Anyway, these are all some new glimmer plates and corresponding dies from the It's My Party 2 collection. So we're going to be making some party themed cards. So first off, I'm going to use this. This is a panel that I created in my recent video for the embossing folder. This one is called, and of course I don't have it right here, Mandala Bloom. So this is a brand new folder that just came out in June 2023. So I'm going to use this one. I went ahead and colored that one up using some paper pouncers and Catherine Pooler inks in a variety of colors. So since I'm going to use this, I think I'm going to use this foil. This one is rainbow. I've got another one that I want to use instead. Actually, the one I was thinking of was this one that is called Rainbow Confetti. But to be honest, I probably am going to go ahead and do both. Another thing that I just thought of, and I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner, but what I'm trying to do is whenever I use my foil, whenever I'm doing any hot foiling, regardless whether it's a sentiment or an image or whatever, I'm trying to make sure that I'm using the waste. The easiest way for me to make sure that I am able to do it properly, because usually everything turns out wrong, is if I cut my panels to fit the waste piece. So that's what I'm going to do this time. Each of these glimmer plates will fit on there, and so it would leave, on whatever I use it on, it would leave the sentiment in that other color with the pretty foil around it. So that is what I'm going to do. And I'm just using the blade that comes with the quick trimmer, and it's the one that says foil. You do get two blades. One is for paper, one is for foil, and make sure that you don't use the foil one on paper because you could dull the blade. Okay, so since I am having to do a little bit of planning, since I'm planning on using the waste foil and try to do that best. Now, I have an A2 size card panel here, and it does take up about a little bit more than half, okay? So in order to make sure that this is centered, I need to place it on my glimmer system right about in the center of where that panel would be. And then I need to line this up with where the top is. I have gone in recently and added a couple little tick marks on here in Sharpie. So that is just a black Sharpie. So far it has not caused any kind of problem with any kind of ink transfer or anything to my panels. But to be honest, when I'm using this, there's not really anything that I'm not, either that I'm keeping on the edges or that I'm not covering up with something else on the edges too. So even if it did transfer over to those top pieces, it would still be fine. So I've got that in there and I've got it lined up using the grids. And now I'm going to place my foil on top. Make sure to put shiny side down. You always want the adhesive side to be touching your card. I'm going to place it pretty much up at the top because I want to use up all that space on my card, right? So I'll go ahead and place that right down there. And now I'll place my shim, and after I put it back in place, it's probably the hardest part, is the heat causes things to more easily shift. I gotta go ahead and place that down. There we go. And I'm putting my spacer pad on top, and now we're just going to hit the button, and once the timer goes off, once that is finished blinking, then we can put it through our die cutting machine. So now that it's ready to go, I'm going to run that through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Just looking at it, you can see the impression that the glimmer plate added. So let's take a look. And there is a little bit of overfoiling, but other than that, that I think looks really good. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and right now, while I've got that out, so I don't have anything that I'm not going to be using, I'm going to go ahead and put this one down onto my glimmer system and let that one heat up. And again, I'm just placing it right up at the top so I can line it up easily, see where all the marks are. And I'm going to let that one heat up for a bit, and then we can do that transfer. While we're waiting for it to go, I'm going to go ahead and die cut this guy out. So the dies are really nice because they have got that little bubble all the way around, and I'm just going to use some Best Ever craft tape to adhere that down so I can run it through my die cutting machine. You do want to be careful when it comes to adding tape over a foiled image like that. If you touch the tape, if you have the tape go over the actual foil, it's possible you could remove some of the shine from your foil. Okay, so I'm going to just run that through my die cutting machine to cut out that image. And I think that looks perfect. Now that this is all ready to go, and I did heat it a couple of times to get it nice and hot, finding that that is a better solution or a faster solution to make sure that you get all of the foil off of there. Now I'm positioning this down again with the shiny side down, and I'll put my card over the top. And I'm going to go horizontal because I'll be able to trim that down once we're all done. So putting down my thin shim and putting down my spacer pad. And now I'm going to, looks like I've already got the timer set. So I'm going to let this sit for a minute. And then once the timer goes off again, we're going to reset that. Once the timer goes off again, then I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. Having the additional heat is not going to hurt it. It's actually going to help it so that it transfers better. Those big plates, it does take a bit to get all of that to come over without it looking grungy. But of course, you can always not heat it quite so long and get a grunge look. So now we can run this through with that bigger plate. And let's take a look and see how that did. So let's see if it worked like I'm expecting it to. Okay, so it looks like it is pretty well on there. We had some overfoiling when we did our sentiments. So there are some areas that are going to be a little bit off, but that's okay. And let's go ahead and pull this off. And it looks like we got all of it off of there. So that extra heat actually helped out. So this is going to be a perfect large sentiment for a card. I'm going to do the same thing with all of the rest of my sentiments, and I'm also going to be cutting out some additional die cuts to go behind our sentiments. So here I've got 3 additional, and that's going to go right behind my Have a Poppin' Birthday, but I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these guys foiled up. So now I'm just playing with some backgrounds. I recently got in some of the Simon Hurley solar paste, which doesn't really look like a whole lot of anything on white cardstock, but this is gorgeous. This is the Sunrays, I believe it's the Sunrays embossing folder. I will get you guys the name of this one and see if it is still available at Spellbinders. It's been out for a while, but it's been in my stash, and I thought that would be kind of a cool background for some cards. And I'm just adding some of the solar paste over the top. I started off with Golden Hour in the center. That's that pretty gold. And then I've got this one that is called Overheated, which is kind of an orangish color. And next I'm going to go in with this one that is Cross My Heart, which is kind of a pink. Like I said, it's almost white. It's like white with just a little bit of tint to it until you put it down on some black cardstock. And then it is just simply gorgeous. Like I said, I just got this in, so I haven't really played with it to see what all I can do with it. And I wasn't sure if this is something I wanted to include in the video or not, but how pretty is that? This is also the first time that I'm trying out some domed foam blenders. I kind of gave up on foam blending brushes a while back just because they always had that harsh line. And I haven't even tried these yet. I've had them in for probably about 2 weeks and haven't tried them. But this is the first time I'm trying it, and it's working out really well. And I'm not bothering to, I was going to switch out colors, but I decided, you know, this stuff dries so fast, and it really is not, doesn't look like it's got any kind of, I don't know. To me, this just is looking pretty. I don't think I've got any kind of problem with the brush or anything else, and it's almost dry. So now I can cut this apart and add it to a card front. Before I do that, though, I do want to work on a couple more backgrounds. So I thought I was pretty much ready to go. And it turns out that I'm not. What I'm going to attempt to do here, let me clean this off. I'm going to attempt to do something that I just saw on a Jennifer McGuire video. And that's because I'm always wanting to find more ways to use my embossing folders. I love the 3D embossing folders. They give very, very wonderful definition and dimension and all of that, and I love the textures, but I want to do a better job of adding color to it. So what she has been doing, or what she just did on a more recent video, is she's using a pigment ink to go over the raised parts of an embossing folder, a 3D embossing folder. So that is what I am trying with this. I'm going to be patting across it. I don't want too much to go in between my balloons here, but this will be really, really cool if it works for me. And I am just adding, this is some Delicata Silver. Yes, Delicata Silver Shimmer pigment ink. And I'm just going over the bottom half of this so I don't go through too much. And I'm pressing and tapping it onto all of the raised edges on my embossing folder. Now I'm going to take out a piece of black cardstock because I think that would look awesome. And I'm going to place it on the opposite side so I don't have to put my fingers in the ink. Get that all lined up straight and just fold it down. I'm going to hold it like this, and then I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine just like I would my regular 3D embossing folders. So we've got platform A, we've got our embossing folder, and then we've got our adapter plate D, and let's see how this does. That does look pretty cool. Okay, so I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to start putting some of these things together. Foiling just happens to be, well, it's kind of my hot button, and it's one of those fun things that I absolutely love to do. So I've got my 4 sentiments done. I die cut out 3 additional for each of these guys, so it gives them a little bit of layering, except for this one. This one, I actually accidentally picked up some shimmer cardstock when I was doing this one, and I think that turned out just beautiful. The gold on this champagne color. So I'm going to leave that one as a solid, and I'm going to be cutting it out basically as a square to mount onto a card base and do a little embellishing. I also want to show you what the results were from doing the solid plates. These all turned out fabulous. So I've got another one that is just like that one. Looks awesome. And we've got these that have a little bit of grunge because, of course, we did have a little bit of overfoiling when I was doing the initial one. So we've got these guys. So we've got 3 of those. And for any of these, I can either cut out square and have a full background of the lovely foil, or I can use a die to cut those guys out. And I think that's what I'm going to do with this one to start. And we're going to see how that looks and then decide, do I want to do the same thing with these? Because what it's basically going to do is going to create a shadow layer that's going to be the silver, with the sentiment being in that bold white. Okay, so I do like that look with it cut out, and I'm going to use this first sentiment. This is the first one that is actually created from the waste. I'm going to use that with this balloon background that I made using this silver pigment ink. And I'm also going in my stash and trying to use up some of the stuff that has been sitting there and not being used. And right now that is my fun foam. I don't have a lot, but I've got enough that hasn't been used. So I'm going to go ahead and use up some of that today on some cards. Just add that to the back of my background, and then I'll put this onto a white card base. And I did trim the panel down just enough to give that little white border. Okay, so we've got that. Now I can layer this up. I did go ahead and cut out some more of the sentiment. Yeah, I couldn't see them because they were all in black. This time I decided to cut them out in black so that they aren't seen against this black background. To glue these together, all I'm doing is just adding some liquid glue to the back and then just layering them up. And since they're going against a black background with black die cuts, if for whatever reason I don't get them lined up exactly perfect, you're still not going to see them against that black background. And now we can add that to the front of the card. And I'm just going to add a few little gems onto here, and they're going to go perfect with that silver. And that card is done. Next, I'm going back with that mandala background, and I popped that up on some fun foam and glued that to a A2 size card base. Now I'm going to add one of these fun sentiments. This is one of the rainbowy ones. This one is the rainbow confetti. It's the hip hip hooray. And I still have that second background I can use for another card. Let me add a little more glue on here, and then I'm going to have to put a weight on this to give it a chance to adhere, because it needs to adhere to those raised edges. Now set that to the side. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. This one is with Have a Hoppin' Birthday, a Poppin' Birthday, and that is again in one of those rainbow foils. This one was the mini rainbow. It was so much fun playing with so many different foils. So I'm going to place that one down again over here in the bottom corner. And add a weight to it and give them both a chance to just dry a little bit. So now I'm going to add a few little embellishments onto these two. Now these are some glittery, colorful little gems that came in one of the card kits last year, and I'm just adding a few of those to my card, because these all have those nice bright colors like what I used in here. So I think that they're going to look really, really nice. Okay, guys, I'm going to apologize again because you know what? I keep changing my mind. I really do. So I did go ahead and cut these out, and I think this is absolutely gorgeous. But I couldn't just throw away all the rest of that foil goodness. So I went and I found a heart die. Now this is from the Open House Valentine's, and it's because it's got that banner there, so it's got all these little hearts, and I pretty much cut all the rest out of this one panel to do the hearts. So I'm going to be adding little foil hearts to all of my cards today. Okay, so next I'm going to work on this one that says today is all about you, and I'm going to be adding the lovely, lovely, yes, I haven't used it in a while, gold mirror cardstock. I'm adding that as my matting layer, and I wasn't willing to give up that much of my foil cardstock to go underneath it. So I went ahead and used one of my dies from my Fluted Frames rectangle set and cut the center out so I can use that again on another card. And I'm just going to position this as close as I can get to being a matte layer. Okay, and I'm gonna have to let this dry a second because glue does not like to stick to this mirror cardstock that well. It does take a minute to stick, but there we go. And now I'm gonna add some liquid adhesive to the back of the main panel and making sure I get all of the edges so that they will be touching that gold mirror cardstock. And now we're going to put that one down right there in the middle, leaving that little gold border all the way around. And then as soon as that is dry, I can embellish it. Okay, and luckily I am still using my art glitter glue, and this stuff does dry clear and matte, so I'll be able to wipe off any excess. I'll be able to just take a wet cloth and wipe off any excess so we won't have these little smudges where you can see the glue. But that is going to be gorgeous. It just needs a little bit of embellishment and it's all done. I'm going to do kind of the same thing with this guy using a smaller of my rectangle dies. The next smaller is going to go right inside of that frame, so we're going to go right there. So since I already had the Fluted Frames die set out, I went ahead and cut out a rectangle of that shimmer cardstock that I had used for this other card, and layering all of that up. And this is going to be a pretty flat card, I believe. I'm not going to add any foam to the back of this one. It just is so pretty with just all of that shimmer and the foil. And just put that right in the center. Then I'm going to bring in all of my cards back so I can start adding some hearts to them. So that's going to finish up this video using the It's My Party 2 collection from Spellbinders. These sentiments are just too much fun, and I really enjoyed playing with the reverse, the waist foil, and creating some really fun sentiments, and that still has to dry, and making some fun little embellishments with the excess as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that this inspired you to get out some of your older stuff along with some of your newer stuff and just play and see what you can create. You guys have a wonderful day. Be sure to check out this playlist to see some more projects where I'm using Spellbinders products, old and new, and I will talk to you soon. Bye guys.